Oh, let the bus in. Let the bus in. Howdy folks, greetings. I wasn't going to do a video today, but I had quite a long drive today, and I do what I always do when I have a long drive. I start thinking about things, and got me thinking about Boris Johnson. Would Boris Johnson actually want a war in Europe? Is that a crazy thing to imagine? I mean, he's taken all this Russian money, right? The Tory party is absolutely flooded with Russian money, and there's always a reason behind these things. It can't just be as simple as they like having money. There must be something else behind it. And, well, I mean, I guess Russian money's been in the Tory party before Boris Johnson, but it just got me thinking, I wouldn't put it past him to actually want a war in Europe. How old is he? Like, I think he's coming towards 60 now, isn't he? And this is one of the things that scares me about Putin as well, his age, the fact that he's coming up to 70. Does he care? You know, he probably doesn't really care that much whether he's going to die. And when you've got someone as insane as Putin in charge of a nuclear power, this is where it gets scary, man, because it's like the same mentality as these like high school shooters and stuff, right? They're ready to die, they're ready to kill themselves, and they want to take a load of people with them. And that's what scares me about Putin. But would Boris Johnson have the same mentality? We know that his idol is Winston Churchill. I mean, he would just be orgasming all over the place, wouldn't he, if he was in charge of Britain during another world war, another European war. You know, he's, like I say, he's coming up to that age now. He's coming up to 60. What's he got to lose? I don't know. Am I being crazy here? is this like completely mental? But I don't think that. Maybe he's not. You know, what was going through my head is that Putin and Boris have been talking about this for a while, and maybe Boris Johnson has known that this is going to come to war for a while. I mean, he's taking all this money, man. There's got to be more involved with this than just the Tories liking money. There has to be more involved, and I think Boris Johnson knows more and has known more about what's going to happen in this war. And I don't think he would just love it. Please, yeah, you know, tell me any different in the comments if you think I'm just being crazy here. But I just think he would absolutely love to be in charge of this country during a war. It would just be everything that he dreamed about, coming up, making the Winston Churchill style speeches, but obviously not to the same amazing level. You know, the people of Britain actually have respect for Winston Churchill. But I just wouldn't put it past him. You know, I think, and that's what scares me. And then what got me thinking after that is if this escalated into a European war, would the general public go for this? I mean, can you imagine that the young people of today going over to Europe to get involved with a war? I mean, we're nowhere near the generation of the 1940s that went to Europe. I just can't see how people are going to come out of their comfy homes of their Netflix, their PlayStations, and go to war. I mean, this is just a crazy thing that the West has never had to deal with, really. I think if it actually reached this country, it would be a different matter. I think literally, forget that there's a body of ocean around England, but if we had tanks on our borders, Russian tanks on our borders ready to come in, and they're bombing your mum's house, then I think people would get animated and would be ready for war. But if it was in Europe, would the British public go over to mainland Europe in their floods to go and fight this war? I don't know. It's an interesting question. It really is an interesting question, because I just don't think. Come on, mate. Come on. Off we pop. Sorry about that. I very, very rarely use my horn. That's it's something that you don't see very often. But when someone is not going on a green light 90% of the time, they're on their phone, they're texting someone, oh, red light, let me just send that text, and they're not concentrating, and that's what annoys me. So I always give them a horn, but that's a rare thing. But yeah, what do you think, guys? Do you really think the youth of today, what do they call it, Gen Z, millennials? I think I'm a millennial. I don't know where the cutoff is. I think it's when you come of age, when you're 18 in past the year 2000, right? So I was 18 in 2002, so I think that classes me as a millennial. Anyone that became age 18 before 2000, they're a boomer. And Gen Z, I don't know what the hell that is, but are these kids going to go to war? The government don't have the same respect that they did in the 1940s. And people they can't get suckered into I use the word propaganda because propaganda is not always a negative thing, is it? You know, when you need to go to war, when you've got the Nazis that you need to fight, and the British and the Americans are using propaganda for their nation to make them go to war, yeah, that's a good thing because we need to go and fight the Nazis. But I can't see it working. I don't know, it's a real fascinating topic. I'd love to hear more about this. I haven't really heard anything about this. I mean, obviously it's hopefully and will never even come to proper war in Europe, and it will be sorted out in Ukraine. But I got thinking about this as well because I was seeing on the news these English volunteers that were outside the Ukrainian embassy volunteering to go and fight. That's strange. I you know, I don't even know how that works. When you've got English citizens going to fight, isn't that classed as basically a declaration of war against Russia because we've got English soldiers over there? If you've got English soldiers on the front line, I guess citizens are allowed to do whatever they want. But it's a very strange phenomenon. I've never seen anything like this before. Very, very bizarre. But yeah, that got me thinking. I think a large slice of the population would be geared up for this. You know, the ones that, even with a lot of mental health in this society, to have something to gear you up for. I don't know, I really am babbling now, but I just really find this fascinating, whether this generation would actually be ready for war. I mean, the Ukrainians are hard, right? You know, they're hard people. They're not strangers to a hard life. I'm an avid watcher of Bald and Bankrupt. I don't know whether you've watched the YouTube channel. He's actually a guy from Brighton, English guy that does a lot of travelling over in Russia, in UK, and the former Soviet countries. And some of the videos in Ukraine that he's done, the Ukraine people are amazing, but they're strong and they've been through things. You know, they're hard people. I think we've lost that edge in the West over here. You know, we're too soft. We are. But you know, what are you going to do? That's just a matter of society and what we've had to deal with over the past 50 years. You know, we haven't had to deal with real hardships. You know, the most hardship we've had to deal with is the last couple of years with COVID, where you just shut indoors. You know, I think really to be geared up for war and be prepared to go to war, you need to be hard, don't you? You need to have seen some things. You need to have experienced life. You know, coming from your sofa watching Netflix. Even when they get to the front line, are they even going to be able to do anything? How many are going to, as soon as a shell starts coming over, a bullet starts flying, freak out and... I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, like I say, I wasn't going to do a video today, but this has just been mulling over in my head, and I thought I'd share it with you guys because I think it's a really interesting topic. I'd love to see more people do videos on this and a discussion. It would be a good one for, you know, a lot of the other YouTubers recently I've been doing really good live streams. I'd love to hear a conversation on this topic. You know, would this country really, in their droves, go over to France and France? I'm picking on France. I'm just thinking World War II. World War II is in my head, or World War One. You know, would they go over to mainland Europe and fight? I don't know. But this is the thing. This is what's happening with this whole Russian thing. The parallels with World War II are just massive, absolutely massive. I mean, you got a crazy, basically, dictator in Putin that is just a big power and has decided to invade another country. All the other European countries are like, shit, I don't know what to do. You know, exactly the same as Hitler when he, you know, first annexed Austria and then the Sudetenland. You know, he just kept taking and taking, and we were like, oh, no, I don't want to stoke, don't want another war, I don't want to stoke anything, until eventually they just had to and invaded Poland. It's just so similar, isn't it? But I guess a war in Europe is going to be. It's always going to be one big power. But I don't know. There's the talk now recently, isn't there, with the no-fly zones. You know, that's the thing with nuclear weapons. You know, at the start of the Second World War, there wasn't nuclear weapons. Certainly ended it, but we just can't. With a nuclear power, we just cannot risk. And but would it come to nukes? Because someone's got to be first, didn't they, with nuclear weapons? That's always the thing. And even if Putin's crazy enough, are the people around him? You know, I don't believe in this notion that Putin in his pocket has a little red button that he can just switch to fire a nuclear weapon. I think there's got to be a lot of people involved, and even the person at the my terminology is absolutely terrible. I don't know the official terms, but the guy that actually is at the missile or at the submarine or something that has to actually fire it. You know, maybe he might turn around and say no, because, you know, that happened during the Cold War, didn't it? There was, I think a Russian radar picked up on what they thought was a nuclear weapon fired from America, and they were all ready to fire back, and it was the one guy in the nuclear submarine or something that had to actually be the one that presses the button and said, no, this is not right, I'm not doing it. Anyway, guys, love to hear your thoughts. Would you go to war? I mean, Jesus Christ, if I was... this is what I'm saying. The difference is, if you got tanks on your border and they're blowing up your mum's house, you're going to war. You know, that you are. There's no question about it. If there's Russian tanks blowing up my mum's house, I'm picking up weapons, I'm going to war. But what I'm asking is if the kids in England are going to go over to defend Poland from a Russian invasion. That's what I'm asking. We've got a lot of Polish people in this country. I'm sure they'd be ready to fight, and a lot of Polish friends. I'd be there with them. Definitely babbling now. Till next time, guys. Take care.